What does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review. And today I'm very excited to check out Uno from Mattel. This is for 2 to 10 players. Ages 7 plus. It'll take you, 30 minutes to an hour and a half to play, depending on how many players you have. And in Uno, you are going to be trying to discard all the cards in your hand in order to score points. But it's not going to be that easy because there'll be skips and reverses and wild cards. They'll do all sorts of crazy things. Wild card! But is it good? Let's open it up. I'll tell you what I think. Alrighty then, we're going to talk about how you're going to play Uno. So first and foremost, this is normally where I'd show you the handy dandy rule booklet. However, I only have a PDF of it. It's a very well done rule booklet. Should have you up and running pretty smoothly, so thumbs up on the rule booklet. Also a very old game, so they've had time to fine tune the rule booklet. So in Uno, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be dealt a hand of 7 cards, and you're going to be trying to get rid of all the cards in your hand. You're going to try and discard all the cards in your hand. If you can be the first person to discard all the cards in your hand, then you will score points equal to how many cards are left in your opponent's hand. So it's a race to get rid of all your cards. Generally, you will play numerous rounds to see who can be the first person to get to 500 points. So how does it work? I'll show you. So first you're going to take this big deck of cards right here. And inside this deck you're going to have numbers 0 through 9. You're also going to have some special cards in here, which I'll talk about all the different special cards later. But as you can see, there's some various different special cards in through the deck. You're going to shuffle it up. You're going to deal 7 cards to each player. And then you're going to flip over the top card of the discard pile. Decide who goes first, and then you're ready to go. Pretty simple setup. So look at your cards right here. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to try and play down a card on this discard pile. So here's how it works. You can either play the same number or the same color, or potentially both. So I could just play down another blue 1 if I had it. So let's take a look at my hand. The cards that I could play would be this red 1 because it's a 1, and also this blue 7 because it's blue. None of the other cards I could play. I couldn't play this 9, 6, 3, 7, 9. So looking a little bit forward, I might say, all right, I have 2 reds in my hand. I only have 1 blue, so I kind of want to save that blue. So you know what? I'm actually going to play this red right here. And so now the next person would be tasked with either playing a red or a 1. So let's draw 7 more cards for this guy, and we'll see what he has. So he has a 7, which he could play. He has, a special card, 2 special cards actually, that are reverses. So he could play this because it's a red reverse. Or if he wanted to, he could play this. Now this is considered a wild. And there's 2 types of wild cards in the game. They will have black borders like so. You can play these at any point, irregardless of what the color is, as long as it's your turn. So this is a wild. This will allow you to change the color into whatever color you want. This is a draw 4. This is just like a wild, except it has the added bonus of making the next person lose their turn and draw 4 cards, which is, that's a pretty big punishment right there. So, you know what, let's just say he gets fancy and he plays reverse and he sends it back to me. So now, instead of continuing to go in the clockwise fashion, he has reversed the play order, which means I now am going to go again. So, this is a good opportunity. I'm going to get rid of my 9 right here, and then would go over to this guy over here, and he would continue to do so. Let's see what he's got. Let's pretend he doesn't have this 7 right here. He's looking down at his hand, and he's got, 4, none of this stuff. I don't have 9s. I don't have reds. Let's just say he really wants to save his wild for some reason. He decides not to play it. So, if there's ever an instant where you can't play a card, or you choose not to play a card, then you draw the top card from this deck right here. If you can play it, you can play it, like so. And if not, you just skip your turn and you move on to the next player. Now, let's go over the different special cards in the game. So we talked a little bit about the 2 wilds. We talked about the draw 4 and the regular wild. This is a skip. This means that it skips the next player's turn. So for instance, if this guy, let's say this is a 3-player game, were to play a skip down, then it would skip this player over here on the left and go immediately to this guy over here. This is a reverse. I showed you that one a little bit earlier. It will reverse the turn order from clockwise to counterclockwise or vice versa. And this is a draw 2 card, which will skip the next player's turn and make them draw 2 cards, which obviously is quite the penalty. But what you're going to do is you're going to continue to play until you only have 1 card left. And what's going to happen is when you finally, so let's do this. So I got 2 cards right here. I played on the 7. When this happens, I have to say Uno, and I have to say it before anyone else does. This lets everyone at the table know that I only have 1 card left. Now, if someone else says Uno before me, then I have to draw 2 cards as a penalty, which is a bummer. But say I say Uno first, it gets back around me, I play this card. That means this round is officially over. So how this works is I'm going to score points based on how many cards are left in my opponent's hand. So let's take a look at the cards in their hand. So this guy, I'd be scoring a lot of points here. How the scoring works is you get the same number as whatever numbers it is. So for instance, this would be worth 3 points in someone's hand, 1 point, 8 points, 1 point. You get the idea. And yes, that is 0 points. So I'd score 7 points for the 7. For any special cards that are not wilds, I'd score 20 points, so I'd have 27. And then for any wilds draw 4s, you score 50 points, so I would score 77 points right here. Over here, I would get 84, I would get 90, I would score 93 points that turn, which would be a pretty decent total because, as I said, you're playing to 500 points or until whatever number you want. After this, you're going to collect all the cards, you're going to reshuffle them, and you're going to rinse, wash, and repeat until someone has reached 500 points. That, in a nutshell, is how you're going to play Uno. Alrighty then, Uno from Mattel Games. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, it goes up to 10 players, which is great, but once you get to those higher player counts, the game can stretch on and on and on. But for the type of game this is, it didn't bug me so much. I consider this to be what's called a social game, the kind of game where you just sit around, playing some cards, chucking some cards, drinking a couple beers, enjoying other people's company. So for a game like this, it doesn't bug me as much. But that being said, if I go to those higher player counts, I would rather play a team version of the game, which will be quicker than just a free-for-all at 8, 9, and 10 players. Now, the biggest con most people have with this game is that it is completely luck-driven. The cards you get in your hand are completely luck. There's not really any way to mitigate luck in this game. If you look down at your starting hand and you have, 3 wilds and low numbers and they're all different colors, you're going to have a very good chance of winning the game, whereas somebody else looks at their hand, they have 5 greens and 2 blues, and none of them are wild. They're going to lose the game for the most part. The round, I should say. So that's a big turnoff, and I can completely understand that point. Now, I will argue, I think there's some definite ways in which you can play specific cards at specific times to somewhat hedge your bets, but for the most part, I'm not going to defend the luckiness of this game. But you do play over numerous rounds, so it is mitigated somewhat. But still, that is the biggest con I think a lot of people have with this game, and it's a perfectly valid con. It's a very luck-driven, random game pertaining to which cards you get. Also, it's a little bit of a take-that game where it's like, draw 4, draw 2. You're going to have to draw cards when you don't want to draw cards, which stretches out the game. And especially at lower player counts, that really becomes evident. Because, if one person and another person's drawing 4 cards or drawing 2 cards, then chances are they're now going to have draw 2s and draw 4s that they can play on the next person, which means they're going to be able to do that to the next person, which just means the game is going to stretch out longer than you want it to. Which, that's just the nature of the beast. Any other cons that I have with this game? This is a very niche game, I think. This is not the kind of game I'm ever going to bring to a party. This is not the kind of game I'm ever going to bring to a game night. This is not the kind of game I'm ever going to try and bust out at my game night in any circumstance whatsoever, just because it's not a gamery game. This, from purely nuts and bolts technical standpoint, is not a good game. It's a very simplistic, old game, and it shows its age. It really does. The game just needs a facelift, a reboot, some new cards, some tweaks here and there to potentially make it better. But moving on to the pros, I still have this game, and I still will have this game after the review. I'm going to keep this game. There's one major reason why I'm going to keep this game. Now, first and foremost, there's obviously nostalgia. Most of us grew up playing Uno or learning Uno, and that's one of the beautiful things about this game is most people know how to play this game. And now, I know you may scoff at that. You may say, I'm not playing Uno with my kids. My kids aren't going to know how to play Uno. Chances are they're still going to be exposed to Uno. Now, I'm a teacher, and I've seen Uno in so many young classrooms because it teaches numbers and it teaches colors very well. I'm not talking like 7, 8-year-olds. I'm talking 3, 4-year-olds. I taught my son Uno Junior at 3, and he's chomping at the bits to play this and figure out how the draw 4s and the skips and all those other things work. And I think you would be surprised at how many, if you polled 10-year-olds, I bet you a large majority of those 10-year-olds would know how to play Uno, assuming they're from, America or other first world countries, that is. But continuing on with the cons, this of the big mass market games, like the classic ones like Uno, Skip-Bo, Phase 10, you can even throw in poker and euchre. I still think this is the weakest of all those games. If I had my choice, I would rather play Euchre. I would rather play Hearts. I would rather play Skip-Bo. I would rather play Phase 10. But the game itself is still an okay experience. And why I can recommend this game purely as a family game, nothing else but a family game, is because it bridges generations unlike any other game out there, really, aside from just a deck of cards. And what I have a perfect example. This is one of the only games I have that my 70-plus-year-old grandmother will play with me, and my 4-year-old will play with me. And that really says a lot when you can go from generation to generation to generation, and they know and enjoy Uno. That being said, is this ever a game that I'm personally going to recommend? No. But is it a bad game? No, it's okay. It's just, this is a really hard review to do, because I realize nuts and bolts, not a good game. But there's so many other intangible factors that go into this review, because I look at it and I say, I can teach this to my son, so I would consider this to be a children's game almost. I bet my son in about 2 years can teach other kids how to play Uno, and I have Uno in my preschool classroom when I was working in my preschool, and those kids taught each other Uno after we taught them how to play Uno, and so it has extra value in that aspect as well. The numbers, the colors, the family, playing with family, playing and just chit-chatting and enjoying each other's company. It's not brain-burny. There's no analysis paralysis. Overall, Uno is exactly what Uno is. For me personally, it's a game that I will keep to play with my kids and play with my grandkids. But other than that, it's not getting played. Period. Or with my grandmother. So Uno, Mattel, yes, it's not a good game, but yes, it's going to stick around because it's got, it's a little bit like chess. If you look at chess from a purely technical standpoint, it's an extremely fidgety game. Oh yeah, this piece does this. Oh no, but this piece does that. Oh, and this piece does this, and this piece does that, and this piece does this, and this piece does that. And you're like, really? How, if this game came out now, it would be garbage just because of how fidgety the game is. But that being said, time has sort of cemented it, so everyone knows chess. This is the same way everyone knows Uno. So overall, Uno, it's okay. If I never play it again, I would be perfectly content. But if I do play it again, I'll be perfectly content teaching it to my son and to other young children. So, Uno, as you can tell, I'm torn on this game. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this content, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below.